At 12 minutes past 1 in the morning, on June 18, 1973, a voice rose through 110 meters of dark water off the Florida coast. It belonged to submersible pilot Jacques Menzies, and he was reporting that the two men in the chamber behind him were having convulsions. On the ship above, the rescue crew heard every word, so did one man in particular. Edwin Link. He had designed the trapped submersible, and his son was inside it. But to understand how it came to this, we have to go back to the beginning. If you value true stories told carefully, subscribe. 15 miles off Key West, Florida, a dead warship lies on the seafloor. The USS Fred T. An American destroyer over 100 meters long, served for decades before the Navy sank it on purpose. 1 year earlier, to create an artificial reef, it rests 360 feet down, 110 meters below the surface. At that depth, sunlight is a memory. The water sits in the mid-40s Fahrenheit, around 7 degrees Celsius, cold enough to pull the heat out of a human body hour after hour. Currents sweep across the site hard enough to shove a diver off course. And the ship did not sink cleanly. It lies draped in cables, rigging, and torn steel. Into this world came the Johnson C. Link, a small research submersible, one of the most advanced ever built. It was really two vessels in one. Up front, a transparent acrylic sphere, 5 feet across, where a pilot and a scientist had a panoramic view of the deep. Behind it, a separate chamber made of aluminum, designed so divers could exit and work in the open sea. 2 rooms, 2 materials. On paper, a design detail, nothing more. The submersible had completed 129 dives without losing anyone. Dive number 130 was supposed to be routine. 4 men climbed aboard on the morning of June 17th. In the front sphere, the pilot, Archibald Jacques Menzies, 30 years old, with roughly 100 dives in this machine, and Robert Meek, 27, a fish scientist who also specialized in pressure physiology. In the rear chamber, Albert Smokey Stover, 51, a veteran submersible pilot, and Clayton Link, 31, the Smithsonian Institution's director of diving. Clayton was also the son of Edwin Link, the famous inventor who had designed this very craft and who was aboard the mothership that morning. Because no diving was planned, Clayton and Stover entered their chamber wearing shorts and t-shirts. On the way in, Meek glanced at their clothes and remarked that it gets cold down there. They didn't expect to be gone long enough for it to matter. The mission was almost embarrassingly simple. Recover a fish trap that had been placed near the wreck. The submersible slipped beneath the warm surface water and sank into darkness. By roughly 9:35 that morning, it settled onto the seabed near the destroyer, and Menzies began working toward the trap. But the current pushed the small craft around as he maneuvered. Several attempts to hook the trap failed. So Menzies made a sensible decision: abandon the trap, back away from the wreck, and go home. Here's the detail that would decide everything. A sealed vessel like this doesn't kill you by running out of oxygen first. It kills you with your own breath. Every exhale releases carbon dioxide, and in a closed space, CO2 becomes toxic long before the oxygen is gone. So submersibles carry a chemical called beryllium pale granules that absorb CO2 through a chemical reaction. And like almost every chemical reaction on Earth, it needs one thing to work properly: warmth. The Sea Link carried enough beryllium for many hours, under normal conditions. Nobody was calculating for abnormal ones. Menzies fired the thrusters and began backing away from the dead destroyer. It was shortly after 9:45 in the morning. There is a lurch. The submersible stops moving. Somewhere behind the crew, a cable from the Fred T. wreckage has caught the sub's frame, 360 feet below the surface. Menzies works the thrusters, forward, reverse. The machine strains in the dark and does not move. It is held. The men stay calm. This is an inconvenience, not a catastrophe. The surface ship radios the Coast Guard, requests Navy divers, and describes the situation with 3 words that will echo through every report written afterwards. No immediate danger. There is one fast way out. The rear chamber is built for exactly this. Pressurize it, open the hatch, and a diver swims out to cut the cable. But at this depth, on the gas they have, pressurizing risks oxygen toxicity, seizures underwater. The idea is discussed and shelved. The Navy rescue ship Tringa is coming. Better to wait, so they wait. And while they wait, the ocean goes to work not on the men, but on the metal around them. Up front, the acrylic sphere holds its warmth. because acrylic barely conducts heat. The rear chamber does the opposite. Aluminum is a superb conductor. It bleeds heat straight into the sea. Degree by degree, the compartment falls toward the temperature of the water outside, possibly as low as 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Two men in shorts and t-shirts inside a metal tube that is slowly becoming a refrigerator. Imagine that. Total darkness. Your breath fogging. Cold pressing in from every wall. And no way to know that the air itself is quietly turning against you. In the front sphere, the CO2 scrubber falters first. Menzies strips off his shirt, pours the beryllium granules into it, and holds the bundle in front of the air conditioning fans. It works, the CO2 level drops. On the surface, engineers calculate that the rear chamber's air can stay safe for over 60 hours. But their math assumes the beryllium is working. In the rear chamber, the cold has already begun shutting the chemical reaction down. The granules sit there, useless, while every breath adds more poison to the air. The Tringa arrives at 4:15 in the afternoon and moors directly overhead. Hard hat divers descend into the current, but the destroyer's massive hull blocks their path, and they are forced to turn back. Night falls on the surface. Below, it never left. By 10 p.m., the rear chamber's beryllium is completely exhausted. At 10:25, Clayton Link and Smokey Stover strap on masks and begin breathing an emergency helium-oxygen mixture. It keeps them alive, but helium carries a cruel side effect. It strips body heat even faster. The escape option is raised one final time just after midnight. By now the answer is simple. Both men are too cold to attempt a dive at all. The pressure in their chamber has climbed to roughly 12 times the pressure at the surface. Then comes 1:12 a.m., the moment this story began. Menzies reports that both men in the rear are convulsing. After that transmission, no voice is ever heard from the rear chamber again. The surface refuses to stop. A second dive from the Tringa fails. A diving bell is lowered. It fails. Another small submersible searches the bottom, but its sonar is broken. Hour after hour, some of the best rescue assets in America throw themselves at 110 meters of water and steel and accomplish nothing. Then, on the afternoon of June 18th, an unglamorous commercial salvage boat called the A.B. Wood II arrives, carrying a Navy underwater television camera on a movable platform. The camera descends, locates the sea link and the wreckage, and guides down a grappling hook. The hook catches one of the submersible's propeller shrouds. The winch takes the strain and tears the machine free. At 4:53 p.m., after 31 hours on the bottom, the Johnson sea link breaks the surface. Menzies and Meek emerged from the forward sphere cold, exhausted, and alive. They were rushed into a decompression chamber. But the rear compartment was still pressurized to 12 atmospheres, and opening it suddenly would kill anyone who might still be breathing inside. Through the viewports, Clayton Link and Albert Stover showed no signs of life. Rescuers pumped in fresh gas and sprayed hot water over the chamber through the night. On the morning of June 19th, doctors confirmed what everyone already understood. Both men were gone, killed by carbon dioxide poisoning. The Coast Guard investigation reconstructed the disaster piece by piece and found no single villain, only a chain of small links. Pilot error, possibly a moment of distraction, brought the craft too close to the wreck. The submersible's exterior, covered in projections and attachments, was almost perfectly shaped to snag on debris. The crew's preparation was described in the official report as remarkably casual for such dangerous work, right down to summer clothes worn into a chamber that became a cold trap. The CO2 calculations ignored temperature. And when the worst happened, not one vehicle on the planet stood ready to reach a trapped submersible and cut it loose. Edwin Link had heard his son's final hours through a speaker, unable to intervene. He did not walk away from the ocean. Instead, he spent the next 2 years building the answer to his own tragedy, Cord, an unmanned, cable-controlled robot designed to descend, inspect, and free trapped submersibles. A second Johnson Sea Link launched in 1975. The two subs went on to explore the wreck of the USS Monitor, helped recover the wreckage of the Space Shuttle Challenger in 1986, and served science until 2011. And a memorial fund was created in the names of Albert Stover and Clayton Link, two men who waited in the cold for a rescue the world was not yet equipped to deliver. He could not free his son that night, so he built a machine meant to free everyone who came after.